Why don't we just make a standardized phonetic spelling system for English? You can't capture all the phonetic details of a word, and even if you could, you wouldn't want to. Are you emphasizing the word with intonation? Then should you write that intonation or not? Did you really enunciate that T like water, or did you pronounce it as a glottal stop like wa? Do you write down the little bit of aspiration after the T in tap? Because you only pronounce it that way in English at the beginnings of syllables, not the end. You don't say pat. What about words like record versus record, or convert versus convert? Should you write the stress? And what about sounds that change depending on the sounds that are around them? Sometimes L is pronounced in the back of the mouth like look, and sometimes it's pronounced in the front of the mouth like laugh, and sometimes it's a voiceless pla like play. Should you have 3 separate letters for those pronunciations or just one? What's happening here is that you don't actually want all of the phonetic details of a word. You only want the phonetic details that are relevant in your language. You want what linguists call a phonemic writing system rather than a phonetic writing system. Except, that doesn't solve the problem either. Languages change their pronunciations gradually over time. English actually used to have fairly consistent phonemic spelling, but then the Great Vowel Shift happened and the pronunciation of all of the vowels of English changed. Our writing system still represents those older pronunciations. For example, the word foot used to be pronounced foot, so it sounded like it was spelled. Sometimes sounds drop out of words entirely. That's where some of English's silent letters come from. Family becomes family, fifth becomes fifth, I have becomes I've, and so on. In the French writing system, sounds that were there historically but have since been lost are represented with a caron over the letter. The French word fête is related to the English word feast, and that caron over the E is there to indicate that the S used to be there but dropped out. Languages can gain new sounds as well. English used to not have a separate V sound. That sound developed out of the F sound. English also didn't have the je sound until it borrowed enough words from French that English speakers started recognizing it in words like measure and seizure. Another huge problem with phonetic or phonemic writing is that people's pronunciation varies by dialect. Some people pronounce the words caught and caught differently, other people pronounce them the same. Some people don't have that aw vowel at all. Should there be different spellings of those words in different dialects? Or think of Spanish ceseo. The letter Z is pronounced as S in some dialects and eth in others. Would it be better to have a phonemic writing system and write those words separately in different dialects, or to write them the same way so that people can more easily tell that we're talking about the same word? And sometimes outdated spellings can actually be really useful for making connections between different words. Think about the pairs debt versus debit, doubt versus dubitable, sign versus signature, autumn versus autumnal. The first word in each of these pairs has a seemingly useless silent letter, but when you say the derived word, that silent letter is pronounced. If we spelled those words phonemically, it would be hard to know that they're related. Scholars started trying to reform English spelling in the 1500s, but it never worked. Noah Webster proposed a number of spelling changes for his Dictionary of American English, but only a few of those caught on, like dropping the U in words like color, or switching the order of the R and the E in words like center. But linguists have had an international phonetic alphabet for over 100 years now, where every letter always represents the same sound. The first version of the IPA was based on a proposal to reform English spelling called the Romic alphabet, but that never caught on. But the IPA did catch on, and now all linguists use it in their research. But nobody else uses the IPA except for a few dictionaries like Wiktionary, Dictionary.com, and the Oxford English Dictionary. Honestly though, even this is kind of great progress, because even a few decades ago, most dictionaries weren't using the IPA, which is crazy given that it's the standard for the scientific linguistic community. Dictionaries would use their own proprietary spelling systems instead. Merriam-Webster still does this. So I hate to be a bummer, but there's really no such thing as a perfect phonetic or phonemic writing system. It's best to just let writing conventions emerge and change over time in whatever way it is that people find most useful. I'm Danny, I post about the science and diversity of language. Give me a follow if you want to learn more.